everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are checking out a new mouse pad that was just recently released. Thank you very much to ZOWIE for sending this over for me to take a look at. I greatly appreciate it. But today we'll be taking a look at the ZOWIE G-SR II. Now, I don't really have too much experience when it comes to ZOWIE mouse pads. I haven't really used many of them during my time as doing peripheral reviews and just general gaming use. I really haven't touched them too much. They are kind of hard to get here in Canada, which is primarily why I haven't looked at it. But since ZOWIE was kind enough to send over a G-SR II, I was like, oh, well, might as well take a look at it, because I've always actually wanted to try out the GSR pads. I've just never been able to get a chance to. So today we're going to do a quick unboxing and brief first impressions of the GSR II. I will have a full review of this pad up in a couple weeks once I've done my testing, but today will just be an unboxing and first impressions. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, now in terms of pricing, the GSR II retails for $39.99 USD, which is relatively in the same pricing we've seen for a lot of other performance pads of this variety as well, so that's nice to see. It is a control focused design. Now we'll have to see, of course, how much of a control focused design it is. Now, the original GSR did have a couple shortfalls and a couple issues with the overall durability and the performance of the pad, and the GSR II is designed to fix those problems. So the primary issues where the GSR II is going to be improving over the GSR I is in durability and performance during moisture environments, so like high humidity and that kind of stuff, and then also the overall durability of the surfacing itself. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a difference there actually is between the GSR II and some of the other pads. Alrighty, now in terms of the unboxing experience for the GSR II, it was fairly straightforward. I only had two problems with it, personally speaking. Now, one thing is I am very used to flat packed mouse pads. Going back to a rolled packed mouse pad is definitely a step backwards, because this pad, just with the way it's designed, it just keeps wanting to roll up in the corners, and I keep reverse rolling and putting heavy stuff on top of it to try and stick it down, and it just keeps wanting to roll out. Going for a flat pack design in the future would definitely be an improvement. The other issue I had was the smell. Now, I know that rubber based mouse pads and mouse pads of this type, generally speaking, have a pretty strong smell to them, but this pad specifically has a very, very strong smell, like almost overwhelmingly so. I've had this mouse pad sitting on my desk with my air purifier, I'm not kidding you, sitting on top of it to try and air it out, and I can't get rid of the smell. The problem with that is that whenever you're using the pad, it kicks up that smell again, and it's very, very, very strong. So I would like to see them maybe go for a flat pack design in the future, and some way of mitigating the amount of rubber chemically smell coming from the pad would be greatly appreciated, because even now I've had the pad on my desk for about 2 or 3 days now, and it still does have quite a strong smell to it. Aside from that, the unboxing experience is fairly straightforward. It's what I expect for a rubber rolled mouse pad of this variety. Alrighty, now the GSR II in hand feels very, very similar to another pad I have used before, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I will say the GSR II is a very soft pad, so much so where you can put your hand and just kind of force your finger all the way through to the base layer. This entire pad is very, very, very soft. So this is going to be more of a pad where, depending on how much force you are putting on the top of your mouse pushing into the pad, the control this pad is going to give you is going to be basically dependent on that, which is nice to see, because I do kind of prefer that feel overall. The more harder, more resistant surfaces that kind of give you the friction that way, I prefer the soft feel. I'm actually quite happy to see that. The surface texture does feel quite smooth. The stitching does seem to be pretty even. I will say though, I have noticed that there is more resistance for vertical movements than there is for horizontal movements, which, given this being a controlled mouse pad, I do kind of expect that, but that could be because of the skates I'm using on my mouse. It could be a variety of different factors, but I'll go into more of a deep dive for that for the full review. But just there is a small difference in the resistance between the vertical and horizontal movements. Now, one thing I'm very happy to see on this pad is a stitched edge. Now, the pad that the GSR II feels the most similar to is the Vaxi PA, which is quite ironic given Vaxi and ZOWIE's history. But basically, the GSR II feels like a better surfaced Vaxi PA with a stitched edge, which is honestly exactly what I wanted, because I love the Vaxi PA. It's one of my favorite mouse pads I've ever used. The only problem I have with that mouse pad is that it does not have a stitched edge. It has a 90-degree flat cut edge, meaning that depending on your arm or whatever kind of sleeve you're using, there's going to be resistance from the corner of the pad up on the bottom of your arm, and it can cause fraying damage to the pad itself. One thing I've always wanted Vaxi to do is make a Vaxi PA with a stitched edge, and basically ZOWIE beat them to it. Now, one other funny similarity is that the Vaxi PA and the GSR II seem to be using the exact same base, so that's also kind of funny as well, because there's so many similarities between these two. I'll do a much more deep dive into how similar these pads actually are for the full review, but based off of my initial impressions, they feel very, very similar. I will say I do give the edge to the GSR II, because I do like the surfacing on the GSR a little better, and I do obviously prefer the stitched edge over the flat 90-degree cut on the Vaxi PA. So right now the GSR II has a lead just because the stitched edge. But we'll have to see how those two pads fare in comparison testing between the two, because I have a feeling those are going to be the most similar pads I have to reference to the GSR II. So we'll have to see how they actually fare between them. Basically, the VAX CPA is one of the best performing mouse pads I've used, and the GSR II is matching that. I actually broke a really old Fireworks Flick PB on Kovacs by like a very significant margin. I didn't have replay buffer on, which I'm killing myself I didn't have it on, but so far, very impressed. There is definitely a noticeable improvement in the stopping power and the overall control of the pad. Tracking performance is pretty good, aside from the one thing I mentioned earlier, where there is a slight difference in the vertical resistance and there is a horizontal resistance, but again, that could be skates or a bunch of other things. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. Valorant performance felt pretty good. Again, I'm pretty bad at Valorant. It's been a while. I've been very busy, so I'm pretty rusty, but it felt pretty solid. Again, I need a lot more time on the pad to give a much more in-depth feel of the mouse pad, but so far so good. I'm quite happy with it. I will do a lot more of an in-depth testing for the full review, including comparisons between different skates and that kind of stuff, so stay tuned for the full review in a couple of weeks. But based off of first impressions, I'm really happy with it. All right, well, that is everything for the quick first impressions of the ZOWIE G-SR II. Overall, this is a very interesting mouse pad. Again, it performing so similar to the VAX CPA is actually a really good thing in my opinion, because again, I love the VAX CPA. It's like one of my favorite mouse pads of all time, and having this, the GSR II, just feel like a VAX CPA with a stitched edge with better performance is honestly really great in my opinion. Again, we'll have to see how it fares over testing, and I'm interested to see if I can figure out why there's a slight difference in the vertical and horizontal resistance, but I'll go into much more in-depth in the full review, including different comparisons between different skates, humidity testing between all my other pads, and a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to ZOWIE for reaching out and sending us out for review. I greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the full review later in December. Peace.